This Saturday marks a sad anniversary for people who work in the world of photojournalism, because 2 years ago, on April the 20th, 2011, Tim Hetherington, one of Britain's most respected photojournalists, was killed while on assignment covering the conflict in Libya. Now a documentary has been brought together looking at Hetherington's photographs and his very human approach to his work and his photographic subjects.
He often worked in war zones. He made, together with his collaborator Sebastian Junger, the Oscar-nominated film Restrepo, in which they chronicle life among a small platoon of US soldiers in a small and deadly outpost in Afghanistan. He took photographs of people everywhere. He worked with British journalist James Brabazon during the Liberian Civil War in 2003. Brabazon co-produced this documentary.
I think it's a very authentic portrait of Tim the man, and a look at the trajectory of his work, where his work was going, looking at the central themes of what his work was addressing and seeing where that may have taken him.
She's a really bright character, huh? How old are you?
He was only 40 when he died. Tim Hetherington wasn't a world-weary, cynical photographer, quite the opposite. What set him apart was the way he always forged a human connection with his subjects.
Keep looking here and don't move.
He had an interest in humanity, I mean a real interest in people and in their experience, and an incredible compassion for their experience. And that interest and compassion was totally apolitical. It involved civilians in the Liberian Civil War, fleeing fighting with their babies in their arms, all the way on up through like the American soldier in Afghanistan.
Can you see me? Hello, Prasad. Okay, we're going to swap now, and you're going to come and sit here.
He manages to get through to people in a way that a lot of other photographers don't really manage. I was quite envious of his ability to sit down and talk to rebel soldiers, commanders, civilians, on a very sort of intimate one-to-one level, and then photograph them in a way that brought out them as an individual.
He didn't have an agenda that he brought to his work, other than to convey the truth, but he did have opinions. This Liverpool-born, Oxford-educated photojournalist was aware of the huge disparity between the haves and have-nots, as his father recalls.
I remember him once saying to me, you're very rich. And I said, well, with what definition? He said, you are very rich because you are able to control and determine your own life.
Tim Hetherington was killed by mortar fire in Misrata in Libya. He was often exposed to danger in his decade-long career that took him to West Africa and Afghanistan.
Was he addicted, do you think, to some extent, to working in conflict zones?
I mean, addicted is a complicated word, but I do think working in conflict zones gave him a very powerful identity that he liked, and I think it gave him very powerful experiences that felt necessary.
Sebastian Junger and James Brabazon have put together an excellent account of Tim Hetherington's life as a photographer, or image maker as he preferred to be called. It's not a deep psychological portrait. He seemed to be a man constantly on the move. From what, we don't know. But he emerges as hugely talented, eminently likeable, and clearly much admired by his comrades who put this film together.